can see why Jimmy Carter wants to stay in the Rose Garden.
The battle of the candidates is only one of the contests in a modern presidential election.
We're going to take effects 3 and Sandy will appear in her place for us into the key. Right to back.
The other contest is among the networks, for prestige, for profit, for ratings.
On camera. To solve facts.
Television is a $3.5 billion business, and those ratings translate into dollars.
Commercial roll. Stand by, Nikki.
Information.
Pitch flat will come up on 7 carries us, but we've got to keep them on the line.
CBS gets more than $100,000 for each commercial minute on its evening news.
One person very simply can perform data processing.
NBC gets only $80,000 for each minute.
And worldwide.
$20,000 a minute is the difference between being number 1 and being number 3. How much do you, in your position, think about the head-to-head ratings war, I guess, or battle contest with the other two networks?
Oh, I don't think of it at all, as long as we're leading. And happily, we've been in that fortunate position for many, many years, so I don't give it a second thought. But if we weren't, I might give it a second thought.
I'd much rather feel as we go along in coverage of a campaign or any other news story that we've done a good job that satisfies me, that I can rest comfortably with when I go to sleep at night, than have the highest rating. But that isn't in the nature of American society. You have to be number 1, otherwise you don't count.
I think it's a wrong contest. We've been saying that all year, but there is almost an axiom in television that whoever does the best job covering conventions and elections every 4 years is deemed to be the best news organization.
The Rose Garden strategy has come to an end. And our
ready the wall. Show them the wall. Take the effect.
Right now.
Ready to take?
Sam, I imagine
ready to take the Robin.
Arithmetic.
Yes,
take it back.
Arithmetic shows that the
Can I change it?
now moved to
change
160 delegates of being
take it out.
renominated.
What am I rolling on?
The networks are spending almost $50 million each to cover this year's election, to win the ratings contest. In the wisdom of television, that means the coverage can't be boring.
Ready, 37. Give me Jody Powell. There take it. Take it. Take it. Thank you.
Obviously.
Politics can be a rather tedious process, but it's not so bad when voters are sprayed with bursts of information.
In Indiana.
Condense, compress, repackage the process as an Olympiad of 37 events.
Ronald Reagan's victory margins were just as impressive today.
Reagan in New Hampshire put the brakes on the momentum of George Bush.
And we'll also discuss why, in the face of some very long odds,
the challengers in both parties keep on challenging.
And wipe it in.
And if all that doesn't keep it moving, networks can create pseudo-elections. They're called polls.
Uncommitted.
Reagan kept 4/5 of the people who voted for him last time.
Bush did better tonight in college towns than Anderson did.
Kennedy did very well among those who made up their minds late.
Voters also were asked which man they felt would do the better in fighting inflation. Among those who felt any president would make any difference at all.
What television reports is what America knows, according to political scientist James David Barber.
Now, when the public attention is concentrated on what the odds are that such and such a candidate is going to do well or poorly in the next primary, or on the sort of Mr. Wonderful celebrity aspects of their performance, that, for one thing, that sends a message to the whole nation. This is what's important. This is what people ought to know about politics.
What about what happened in these 2 new polls about you and Carter?
Mr. President, you're way up in the polls now.
A principal focus in television is turning politics into a subcategory of athletics, because the principal questions that I get asked are basically a prediction about the next week. What score will you have? What's your number? Will you get 20%? Will you get 10%? How will Kennedy do? How will Carter do?
Most of the candidates we've talked to have, in fact all of them, have complained about television's emphasis on the horse race aspects of a campaign. How do you respond to that?
I respond by asking them, what are they in the race for? Are they there to win, or are they there to simply discuss issues?
You're there to win. The process in the primaries is to find out who is going to the convention with the greatest number of votes, with the greatest opportunity to become the next presidential candidate of his party. That's the name of the game.
I think there's a tremendous tendency, which frustrates the politicians, and I don't blame them, for us not to ever be able to get into any substantive issues the way the political people would like us to, because we don't have the time to do it. So what we give is impressions of competence or impressions of niceness or honesty or whatever.
The setting of the national agenda is largely in the hands of a profession, namely journalism, and part of that, importantly, television journalism, that has no visceral connection, has no representative connection with the neighborhoods of the nation. You now have a whole new system of nominating and electing presidents that's fundamentally different from what we had 30 years ago. That's a revolution.
Suppose it is true that television has led to a breakdown of the two-party system because candidates can go directly to the people instead of through political precinct captains and all that kind of stuff. Is that good or is that bad? Who's going to make that judgment? Suppose we have to make that judgment. What would we do about it? Would we shut off television? It's a field that I don't think that those responsible for news ought to get into very deeply. If we start modifying our professional news judgments and start worrying about who's it going to hurt and who's it going to help, what's it going to do to our society, we're going to start playing God.
Should someone like you sit and think about the impact that television has on the body politic and on the nation in general?
This is going to sound terribly irreverent and, I suppose, unthinking, but not too much. I think what we should be thinking about is that we are doing a good, solid news job. And you don't have time to philosophize, to cogitate, to mull, to do all of those things that are terribly important, but is a different kind of a game. In the summer, when things are quiet, you can look ahead and look back, but in the meantime, you've got a campaign to cover, damn it, and you better get on with it.
The people who run television news obviously don't want to talk about the effect of what they do. They're here to win, damn it. This is the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. This is where the Republican National Convention will be, and this will be the next battleground for network news. Their troops are all over this place already. They're setting up a television studio. But now the lines from that studio run to 150 million sets. And that machinery is the message of this program. It's the invention of television that changed American politics. The technology of instantaneous, pervasive, persuasive communication. Television's more than a medium. It's our environment. It's like the weather. And all that machinery is in private hands. The networks own it. And they use it to suit their own purposes, to get the big audience, to sell. They do what they can to try to make the everyday world more interesting and more dramatic. They've made us the most informed people in the world, but not the best informed. Television inevitably distorts reality to its own needs, its own limitations. On television, talking about television and politics, we get an hour, 49 minutes plus commercials. That leaves us with 20 seconds to talk about the future. The technology keeps growing. Satellites, cable, two-way television, push buttons on your set could be used to vote. Vote for candidates, vote for issues, direct democracy. Technology could do to democracy what it's done to our politics, turn the whole thing into a television show. That's something to think about for more than an hour. The men who wrote the Constitution of the United States deliberately constructed an intricate set of checks and balances. They wanted to slow down the processes of government. They wanted democracy to wait out the passions of the moment. Nothing could happen until the crowd dispersed, until the mob went home. Now, the mob is at home, watching television.